Good day, awesome YouTubers. It is Lollyman16 here again for another Dragon Ball Super review. This one is episode 69, Goku Tai Arare. Hachamae Chabatoru deshi Q ga owaru? And in the translation, Goku versus Arale, a ridiculous battle that will end the Earth. This episode, I just got done watching it. It was all gag centric. It was a Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball Super crossover. If you haven't watched Dr. Slump, it's basically the manga slash anime that it's really the series that got Toriyama. You know, it launched him into fame. It's the one that got him popular before Dragon Ball, and you know, it's good to see them have another crossover because they haven't done one in a very long time. I think the last one that they had was Goku and Arale in episode 43 of Super, and also there was one all the way back in Dragon Ball, when essentially it was Goku versus Tao and also Arale versus General Blue in that saga. So this episode was completely gag. It's another complete filler episode. Let's get right into it. Of course, as always, I have Herms' translations here, so props to Herms from Kanzenshu. Give him lots of support. Twitter.com/Herms98. Anyway, so basically this whole premise of this whole episode, it's a world invention award, and it's basically to decide who's the best inventor of the world. Obviously, the Briefs family, Bulma, and Vegeta, and Trunks, you know, they both come in suits, and at this point, Goku actually comes, and he actually has a part-time job as a security officer, and he has actually has a suit and a different kind of hairstyle. It's a slick back hairstyle, but soon he changes this because he is bored. Now, basically, everything that happens up to this point is, you know, the whole convention happens, and the winner of this whole thing is Senbei Norimaki, which is, if you guys didn't know, he is the creator of Arale, and he's from Penguin Village. Again, watch Dr. Slump if you haven't seen it. This episode is kind of hard to explain to you guys, mainly because a lot of it is Dr. Slump stuff. So if you haven't watched Dr. Slump, you might want to go and do that before you start watching the crossover they had in episode 43 of Super, and also the one they had way back in Dragon Ball. So Senbei is saying, like, you know, I've been called Dr. Slump before, but I'm actually a genius when it comes to inventions, and he's created a new machine. Basically what it is, it's a machine that lets him create anything he wants, and it's in a form of a pot, which is pretty interesting. They're gonna play with that later on in the episode. But out of nowhere comes a ghost of Dr. Mashirito, and if you guys didn't know, Dr. Mashirito is the main antagonist of Dr. Slump, and he is also modeled after Toriyama's his editor at the time, one of his early editors, and that's why his main catchphrase is rejected. Like he said, rejected, rejected, rejected. Basically, I believe actually Mashirito is based on the editor that was in the Cell saga, because if you guys didn't know, and another thing for you guys, Cell, the whole premise behind Cell is that 17 and 18 and 19 and 20, all those androids were deemed not good enough as a main villain, at least by his editor. So anyway, Mashirito comes, and he's in a form of a ghost, because in the end of Dr. Slump he died. So he comes back in the form of a ghost somehow. Again, none of this is explained, but it doesn't really matter, because this entire episode is just completely gag-centric. Anyway, so Mr. Satan, actually some other guy, Mr. Satana, I don't know who this guy is. Anyway, he uses the Senbei's invention to make Mr. Satan merchandise in a form of a magazine, and a couple of things ensue here. Actually, it's interesting because in this episode, Senbei actually checks out an old a manga book of Dr. Slump, and when I saw that for the first time, I was like, oh, it's a pretty interesting little Easter egg they put in there. It's an actual gag. It's an actual manga book. I believe it's a volume of the Dr. Slump manga. So anyway, uh, so Mashirito came back, and Arale comes in out of nowhere, basically. Just I think she like punches through the wall or something, and anyway, Arale saying like rejected, 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 and this is proof that the characters learn later on that Dr. Mashito has mind controlled Arale, and so Mashirito makes Arale essentially fight anyone, and Mashirito also feeds the Gachans. If you don't know who those are, those are two like angel creatures that were always like friends of Arale, and he makes them eat. You want to eat like way more than they usually eat, because if you didn't know, the the Gachans eat metal. That's what they do. They actually eat metal. So interesting stuff here. Anyway, Mr. Satan says that he's a spotlight, and so in order to like take the attention away from Arale and Mashito, he offers to play with Arale. But if you didn't know, Arale is really strong, and so this is a big mistake. The Gachans start eating the entire World Convention building. So basically, Vegeta steps in, right? And of course, if you guys didn't know, Arale is a gag robot character. She's actually really strong, but it's supposed to be gag centric. And Vegeta even says this. Like, Vegeta even says this at one point in the episode. He's like, "Oh, she's so powerful. She must be like a gag character." So they're obviously, mentioning the fact that she really is a gag character. Uh, anyway, more translations from Herms here. Actually, Mashirito was actually he was based off of Toriyama's editor Torishima. That's his name. So another interesting bit of this episode. So anyway, Vegeta, back to the storyline. Vegeta fights Arale, and it's really funny stuff here. Vegeta, he's in his base form, and he punches Arale really hard. And he punches Arale. Arale flies off in the distance, but from behind, Arale actually kicks Vegeta into like the ground or something. I can't remember. At this point, Goku and Arale meet up, and they seem to actually like they pointed it at each other, and they're like, "Hey, you!" And they kind of recognize each other, but they seem to recognize each other, but they really don't. Anyway, Mr. Satan tells Goku all about the story, like how Mashirito is manipulating Arale to do evil stuff, and interesting. At one point, Vegeta tries to distract Arale, saying like, "Hey, look, there's a UFO," and Arale gets distracted, and Vegeta comes back with a big right hand, and after this, Arale explains that she's actually a robot to Vegeta, and she very in a gag scene, don't take any of this seriously, guys, she actually splits the Earth in half. So interesting stuff here. Arale then proceeds to headbutt Vegeta, and it sends him flying, and this is just like the scene in Dragon Ball where Arale headbutts General Blue, and it sends General Blue flying. And this actually makes Goku remember who Arale was, because Goku actually watched as Arale headbutted General Blue back in Dragon Ball. So anyway, Goku asks Arale to wait for a bit because he wants to fight her, and he actually goes Super Saiyan Blue. He goes to his full power. Again, all gag stuff. Goku fires a Kamehameha, and Arale fires a Nicha cannon. Nicha, that kind of cannon. It's actually Arale's signature, one of her signature attacks, and other than the headbutt, of course. So anyway, Arale promises to fire a Nicha cannon that's 100 times stronger than it was before, and Goku is excited about this. So anyway, this whole thing ensues, and Mr. Satan thinks that the world's going to end, but Bulma has a plan to stop this, and she actually calls Beerus and Whis over, kind of bribing them with some more food and stuff. And interesting stuff. Trunks, there's a little gag scene with Trunks and Senbei, and they're trying to catch Mashirito. very interesting, but they can't catch him because he's a ghost. So interesting and really funny stuff with Trunks here. Anyway, some more comedic stuff happens. I think at one point in the episode, that invention, that pot invention that Senbei made, it actually manifests like into a ball or something, and I don't know, more stuff ensues from there. And I think at one point that it also manifests into like the poop, the pink defecation, the pink poop from Dr. Slump, that one that Arale always pokes all the time, and that actually gets Arale distracted. So after more comedic gags and stuff, finally Beerus Whis arrived, to settle this whole thing, and Whis actually claims that Beerus can destroy ghosts. Is like, ghost or no ghost, even if you're a ghost, Mashito, there's nothing that Beerus can't destroy. So this is really funny. Mashito actually threatens to reject, quote unquote, reject Beerus, but Beerus goes ahead and just wipes him out completely. And Beerus, oh yeah, that manifestation from the invention was actually a coffee ball. Interestingly enough, Arale says like, "Oh, hey, he's a big cat," because she sees Beerus, but Goku warns Arale not to mess with him because obviously he's really powerful. So in the final scene of the episode, pretty much, Beerus is about to actually destroy Arale with his signature like atom ball key blast thing, but he and Whis go back to their home because Beerus has a stomach ache. Or in Hermes' translation, he has some digestive trouble. I don't know what that means. Probably just some diarrhea or something. Again, really funny stuff here. So everyone heads home and they all apologize to, or actually no, Senbei apologizes to everyone. He especially apologizes to Mr. Satan for all this trouble. And it cuts to Vegeta at the end of the episode, and he's saying like, "I won't fight another gag character at the end." And that's where it cuts off, guys. Next week we're gonna have Champa's challenge. Basically, it's a baseball episode. We get to see Universe 6 players, the cast of Universe 6 come back, but I don't see Hit in there, so probably Hit's not gonna be in it. I do see Botamo, Magetta, Kaba, and I don't see Frost, but majority of the Universe 6 cast are coming back. So that's probably going to be a more interesting episode than this one. Again, this episode was a gag episode. I'm kind of, I don't know, some parts were really funny, but the whole episode in general was kind of, I don't know, kind of lackluster, and really, it's not really good. I'll really be honest here. I really didn't enjoy these. I don't even enjoy the filler episodes really that much at all. The only filler episode I really enjoyed was like the Slice of Life with the Z characters episode way back in the Resurrection F arc, those kinds of things, and the training stuff. Those were really cool to me, but this episode was, again, a good Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball Super crossover. But yeah, but other than that, it's just all gag stuff and not really that important. So I hope you guys enjoyed that review. Like I said again, next week is going to be a whole episode devoted to baseball, and Yamcha is going to be the spotlight of that. I can't wait for that one. But yeah, guys, and one more thing, in the intro of Super, I believe they played the Slump opening, so I'm going to have to watch that. I might watch this episode one more time just to get the whole feeling of what actually happened, because it's a lot of wackiness, and to be honest, this might be one of the wackiest episodes of Super yet. So again, we have a couple more episodes of filler until we get back to the good stuff. So let me guys know your comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't, link in the description. I'll see you guys later. Stay awesome and have a good one.